Hello, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. My name is Janine Donnelly. I am the Manager of Webinars for IBM Systems Magazine. Today's webinar, Sophisticated Mainframe Orchestration for Mobility Takes Flight with APIs, is sponsored by GT Software. And on that note, I'm pleased to turn the presentation over to the Executive Vice President of GT Software, Bruce Kopkin, for introductions. Over to you.
Thank you. Great. Thank you very much, Janine. I'm really pleased to host this webinar and be joined by three true industry experts. First will be speaking after me will be Barry Baker. Barry is the Director of Z Systems Software, IMS and TPF for IBM. Barry has overall responsibility for the IMS and TPF businesses at IBM, including strategy, product management, develop, Q&A, client success, support, and services. In addition, we have Justin Kerchal. Justin's the Manager of Application Development at American Airlines. He's also served as both an IT business analyst for American Airlines and as a business analyst for U.S. Airways prior to their merger with American Airlines. Justin was also a featured speaker at IBM's Interconnect in Las Vegas in February of this year. Joining Justin is Dave Espy. Dave is also a Manager of Application Development at American Airlines. He's also served as a senior .NET developer for American Airlines and as a lead analyst for U.S. Airways prior to that merger with American Airlines. During today's webinar, you're going to hear how American Airlines built a mobile application that allowed their aircraft maintenance technicians to do their work at the point of service, the aircraft. And I'll tell you, as a frequent flyer, I'm certainly appreciate no longer having to hear from the pilot. We're just waiting for the paperwork. The application that you're going to be hearing about later on has eliminated that from happening. We all recognize that the mainframe is a system of record for many companies throughout the world. Barry will be sharing some of the trends challenging all of us today and what IBM is doing to future-proof the mainframe. And we at GT Software are excited to be furthering our partnership with IBM to help our customers build new applications and to keep the mainframe vital for years to come. A little bit about GT Software quickly. Founded in 1982, GT Software's heritage of application modernization began with the mainframe and now continues through today's modern technologies. It's always been our mission to help our clients achieve success by extending the value of their IT investments through agile development with an intuitive, robust integration layer that provides standard-based APIs, which improves innovation and enhances operational efficiencies. We've helped our clients innovate and thrive through the never-ending challenges in their industries, from mobile banking and online car configuration to credit card processing and online horse racing and betting. No matter your challenge, GT Software can help you. And we are very, very excited to be expanding our partnership with IBM to include enhanced SOAP capabilities and to extending the power of the IBM z/OS Connect Enterprise Edition to include many other data sources and applications so that the new applications of our customers that I previously mentioned to you can be quickly and easily created. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce Barry Baker to discuss today's challenges and how IBM will help you into the future. Barry?
Hey, thanks, Bruce. Thanks to the organizers, and especially thank you, Bruce, for the introduction and for hosting this webinar. And also, I'm going to say a preemptive big thanks to Justin and Dave, who I think are really the stars of the show, because they're going to take you through a little bit on how they're taking some of the best technology from IBM and from GT Software to really deliver value to their businesses. And I won't spend a lot of time on my intro. Bruce already covered it. I get to have a lot of fun charting the future for products like IMS and TPF and helping keep our customers successful with the offering. So I'm delighted to be here today. I say we just get started. So what I wanted to do and what I would typically do in a longer setup is a broad view of what's going on in the industry. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to focus and really dig in on where we're going from the standpoint of enabling clients to leverage their key applications and data that is hosted by and sitting on their systems of record to really deliver new value to their businesses. And that's going to lead right into what Justin and Dave are going to talk about and how they solved a major challenge for American Airlines. So So first, let's just get right into the industry, right? So from our perspective, we know mobile has changed almost every industry at this point. I mean, nobody can really question this from my perspective. Just personally, I know my whole, what I do from a phone has changed in the past 5 years so significantly that it's hard to deny that it's impacting entire industries. I pay my bills, I transfer money, I even do kind of more trivial things like order and buy toilet paper and paper towels from my phone, right? So mobile is really driving business change. It's driving a whole new set of requirements on corporate IT and on IT overall. And just to take one slice of this from a perspective of expectations, we know that mobile has changed what people expect from the companies they do business with, right? So how responsive a company is to complaints, for example, on social media, right? Of those surveyed that really expect a company to respond to a complaint on social media, 65% expect a response in less than 2 hours. Take a step back. Do you think many businesses, especially many established businesses, are prepared to respond to meet those needs? Other companies are building this into their business design as they get created, but established companies are trying to sort out how to handle this, right? So mobile is changing what consumers expect from their providers. And, some are really actually latching on to mobile and, using it as a way to totally disrupt industries. So this is a great example. It may not become clear from this picture right away, but if you look closely, this is actually a train station. It looks like a convenience store. And so the story here is Tesco, a leading convenience store provider, was trying to expand and grow in the South Korean market. What they realized very quickly was the cost to increase their physical store footprint was way too expensive for them to actually justify an expansion into South Korea. So what they did was they designed an entirely new process, an entirely new experience from the end user's perspective, right? So what you see there on the wall is actual posters of products that you would see in a convenience store, totally enabling a shopper to just, while waiting for a train, point their phone at products and set the time when they want it delivered, and then when they get home at night after work, their deliveries are there and waiting for them. This resulted in Tesco becoming the #1 online grocer in an extremely short period of time, right? So digital is enabling companies to redefine what it means to interact and serve their clients, right? But some companies are not really making the shift, right? So for those in the U.S., Blockbuster notoriously did not make the shift, while Netflix was very, very able to move from a mail order video rental model to totally digital. And a point that I'd like to make, though, is, we know that the deployed systems of record like IMS run much of the world's, I'll say, back-end systems and keep the world humming, if you will. So they also represent trillions of dollars of investment over the past 3 decades. Many companies, many of our largest companies and customers from an IBM perspective, have devoted decades optimizing these environments. And what is really becoming apparent right now is, there was a trend to potentially look for alternatives in terms of moving these platforms and moving these legacy, quote unquote, legacy systems of record to new technologies. But I can tell you from my perspective and from what we see over and over again is there's too much now going on from a IT disruption perspective that it doesn't warrant that investment any longer. Clients are really now focused on how do I better leverage that environment. And you may have seen just yesterday, IBM announced our 2Q earnings, and our CFO on CNBC came out and said, the system of record is unlikely to be moved into the public cloud. This is in total support of the idea that the IBM mainframe, which continues to be the most technically advanced system of record platform on earth, will remain so going forward. these are a strong recommendation and a strong point of view around where our clients are deriving value, and they're deriving value by leveraging and extending what they've already invested in and created on the platform to serve new customers and new needs. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here and start talking about what I see from an IMS perspective. Leaders, IT leaders that are really getting ahead of and beating their competition are really becoming much more ambidextrous. And what I mean by that is, on the one hand, they need to continually optimize and improve their outcomes for what it is they've already got deployed and are running. But they also need to then take those savings by optimizing that environment and plow that into innovation and doing new things with the platform. And from an IBM perspective, we invest heavily to enable that innovation. So as shown here on the left-hand side, a few years back, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the mainframe. That should represent to you all a significant and ongoing investment from the IBM Corporation. It's sustained for over 50 years. No other IT platform that I can name can claim that level of ongoing support and investment. On the right-hand side is the Z13, the latest incarnation of the mainframe, and it is entirely built and designed from the ground up to further help you optimize and efficiently run your workload that you have today, but also support the digital transformation that's occurring. It represented in over $1 billion in research and development. It is the fastest adopted mainframe in the past decade. This is a healthy and franchise business for IBM that is crucial to our ongoing success, and we recognize the importance of the platform to our clients. Now, from an IMS perspective, there are a number of things we are delivering and have delivered recently. On the left-hand side, as I said before, clients and IT leaders need to continually stay current on the latest versions of IMS and take advantage of the latest capabilities in the base product, and take advantage of the IMS tools portfolio, which helps you manage and get the most out of your investment. And then on the right-hand side, we have real good examples of clients that are taking on and doing new innovative things with the platform, whether it's taking their applications that are COBOL and legacy-based and modernizing them in a progressive way using things like Java, or if they're opening up standards-based access to things like IMS database to enable business analytics, and opening up new integration paths, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today. And from an IMS overall strategic perspective in how we actually invest and decide to invest in areas for the platform, we sort of view it as three main areas of investment and strategic intent that you see here. First and foremost, the value prop for IMS is around core transaction processing and data management built for performance, reliability, availability, and speed, and driving down the cost of a transaction. We continue to invest heavily in the product from this perspective, though we know that clients are going to want to take advantage of and extend the value of the investment they've made in the platform. So the second major area of investment you see in the middle here is around how do we enable clients to leverage the data that's in IMS and also open up cloud and mobile access. And this is what we're going to talk about today with American Airlines and their experience with opening up new channels to the existing applications. And at the bottom, we continue to focus heavily on bringing on new people to the platform and new talent, and those people and that new talent has a different set of expectations in how they are able to be productive on the platform. So we invest heavily in opening up standard-based interfaces, support for Java, support for modern tooling that enable DBAs and developers to be effective on the platform. Overall, this is three main areas of investment. We've been investing in these three main areas for the last, I'll say, 2 to 3 releases, and we see no change in the strategy, how we're investing going forward. So now let's get into and dig in a little bit into the mobile and API space, because I think that's the focus for today. So, many clients want to be responsive to their business, And one way that we're seeing clients do this really effectively is by, instead of starting from scratch, from the standpoint of developing a new mobile app to serve a client or serve a need of the business, they really are starting from their existing systems of record and identifying key applications and data that is consistent, live, and accurate, and how they can then take those services and those applications and expose them very easily so that a new application can be developed. And so the model is rather straightforward. You start on the left here, you have a valuable business asset, an application that does something, and you expose it in a very standard way using APIs, and those APIs are then picked up by application developers. And the whole chain here is to then pick up those APIs, develop an innovative app, and hopefully delight an end user or a customer. This is driving real business. We see the idea of opening up access, direct access back to the mainframe as really happening. When you really look at a couple of examples of businesses, there's three that come to mind that we found data on. If you look at Expedia and eBay and Salesforce.com, and you take a step back and say, yeah, I would know those as web properties that I would go to and use the web page to go and do business with them. In fact, more than 50% of each of those three of their revenue is derived from an API, from an application programming interface that goes back to their back-end systems. So this is real business. We are investing heavily to enable this with our clients, right? So, regardless of the starting point, some think that it's newer, born on the cloud, new companies that are doing this. But the fact is over 75% of, just taking one industry as an example, over 75% of top 50 global banks will have launched an API platform by the end of this year. So there's a tremendous amount of growth. And from an IBM perspective, we are investing heavily in two main offerings to enable this from a mainframe perspective: API Connect and ZOS Connect. And API Connect supports other platforms and cloud and everything beyond the mainframe. But ZOS Connect is our main offering that enables REST access to the platform. And so we can talk more about that and take questions and answers in the question and answers section. But what I really wanted to talk a little bit about is SOAP. And so from a SOAP perspective, there's a lot of investment that IBM has made over the years to enable SOAP. And from an IMS perspective, we have a number of customers that use the SOAP gateway. What you're going to hear about today is GT Software and their Ivory Service Architect offering, which I would classify as a SOAP offering, but a SOAP offering that is much more advanced than what we've delivered from an IBM perspective. The ability for GT Software and Ivory Service Architect in particular to enable composite service support, so complex orchestration, and to support things like multi-segment conversational transactions are reasons why we've partnered with GT Software to solve some of these challenges. And I think they're much better positioned for us, for the install base to solve some of these challenges. And so I'm excited to hear more about Justin and Dave's story and how they're leveraging Ivory Service Architect to deliver new value to their business. And before I pass to them, I will just flash quickly, how to stay connected from an IMS perspective. I really encourage you all to reach out. There's a number of social channels where you can get more information on what's going on with the latest from an IMS perspective. There are regional user groups we run around the world, and so you can get hands-on and face-to-face with many IMS people. So please do reach out. And at this point, I'd like to hand off to Justin and Dave and hear about the American Airlines story.
Okay, great. Thank you, Barry. So my name is Justin Kerchal, and I'm with American Airlines. And myself and Dave, we're going to walk you through what we've done at American Airlines since our merger, kind of how we got there, what we did, what we looked at, and then we're going to show you some screenshots of our new application that we've developed using GT services along with some other technologies. All right, so first, American Airlines Tech Ops. So first, we have to figure out how we got where we are today. And also, I'd like to explain exactly who we support. So to do that, we have to go back a few years to when we first started the merger with U.S. Airways and American Airlines. When we sat down together, both U.S. Airways and American Airlines as tech ops, we had to decide what we wanted to do. We knew that the business, who was tech ops, our internal customer, wanted one UI. They wanted one UI for their mechanics to go to cut down on training and also cut down on any confusion among them. So our business partner, to explain a little bit more, is tech ops. Basically what tech ops is, it's internal to American Airlines, and that is the mechanics, any supply chain such as parts delivery, our engineering, purchasing, planning, any group that really makes the airline run in the back end along with maintenance. So when we sat down together, we determined we had over 130 IT applications that were supporting just tech ops. And that was ranging anywhere from work card sign-off to manuals. So there was a lot of duplicates, and of course, some were going to get sunset, but that's a big number to start out with. So we're also now the largest airline in the world, which is a big jump from us. When we're supporting over 1,000 aircraft now. So we're having maintenance performed all over the world. We can't just focus on mechanics that are in Dallas that are sitting in an office. We have maintenance going on from Dallas to Hong Kong to Miami to London. We have mechanics working basically almost 24 hours a day. We're supporting these mechanics doing their job. So also, we have our integrated operations center in Dallas. So that is the heart of the airline. It supports the pilots, flight attendants, maintenance. Everything is managed there to make sure that we're running an on-time airline. So that is also 24/7, 365. So with all that, we knew we had to come up with a very reliable application for our line maintenance mechanics. So we also knew we had a challenge today. So with that, we knew we had to have support our legacy systems, which we both had mainframes, but we also knew we wanted to make it mobile friendly, as that's the direction which we are moving to. And we also needed to make sure that we had constant uptime. So here's kind of the strategy that we took. We decided that we had to make careful, deliberate decisions to minimize our operational disturbance. We are one airline for our customers. However, in the background, we're still trying to integrate some of our systems and some of our processes. So we had to make sure that we created as minimal disruption as we could, which luckily we did. We also knew we had legacy systems for each airline. We weren't going to try and combine those systems right away. We had to find a way to work with them. So to do that, we needed to create a single front end spanning both mainframes. By doing this, we minimized any training that needed to take place for our mechanics. We ensured we were compliance, one of our most important things. We also simplified the transition to an in-state system, which at the time of the beginning of the merger, we didn't know which system we were going to. Were we going to choose one of the mainframes, or were we going to go with a completely new system? No matter what that decision was, we'd be able to take our application and put it on top of an existing one that we had or a new application, and then that would minimize any additional training that would take place for the mechanics. So what we did is we came up with the system agnostic front end, also known as SAFE, which I will show slides of later. But I'm going to explain now a little bit more about SAFE, and then that way you can get a little feeling of what we created and how we went about it. So we started in February of 2014, basically designing SAFE. We sat down. There was U.S. Airways developers, and there was American developers, and of course we had our business partners from both airlines as well. And we had to sit down and try and harmonize as much as we could the different data elements and everything that went into these legacy systems. We first implemented in January of 2015. So about a year it took us to create this. By doing this, it helped us achieve our single operating certificate. And the single operating certificate is basically, in the eyes of the FAA, it makes us one airline. So it's very important for us. So how we kind of got where we are is we use the service-oriented architecture. So we had a strong desire to utilize the SOA to navigate the differences between the mainframe systems. And what we had is Legacy American already had an established standard for this purpose, so we were able to get data out of the American legacy system. But we didn't have a way to create services on top of the legacy U.S. Airways system. So we evaluated several options, and we ended up going with the GT Software Ivory suite. By doing this, it allows us to use modern HTML5 development, which on our UI we used AngularJS and Bootstrap, which allowed for us to make this a very mobile-friendly application. We have mechanics, like I said, all over the world, using anything from desktops to their tablets, which we provide. We also have some that are able to access it via their mobile phones. We also have vendors that are accessing it via different mobile devices. So we had to be very lenient on, selecting just one web browser. We had to be able to focus on our development and allow for any web browser, and including mobility, and not spend a bunch of time on that. So by using the Bootstrap and AngularJS, it allowed us to do that. So with using GT Software Ivory Suite, we were able to create the services back to our legacy system and then provide all that information on the UI. So I'm going to hand it over to Dave now, where he can talk about our legacy system on the U.S. Airways side, which is now the new American side, a little bit more.
Okay, I'm Dave Espy. I'm Application Development Manager. I primarily worked on the Scepter system in my career at U.S. Airways. It has its origins almost 40 years ago in formerly Republic and North Central Airlines. It's somewhere around 2 million lines of COBOL code. It's an IMS DB-DC system. It supports pretty much everything we need to maintain and keep our planes flying, from line maintenance and base maintenance, maintenance planning, purchasing of technical aircraft parts, the engineering department, creating engineering orders and action authorizations to modify the airplanes as required. We had about 10 years ago created a .NET front end where we coded in .NET classes for IMS Connect and serializing the copybooks in and out. And it was pretty much static HTML, really tied to browser version, and it wouldn't be able to support moving to any kind of a mobile front end. And so when we looked out and selected GT, we decided that we were going to basically slowly replace what our legacy web front end was. But the primary consideration up front was to support the functions that we needed to gain our single operating certificate. Next slide. So this is an example of a service that is built in the GT Ivory architect. And this service is front-ending green screen transaction where the mechanics will enter a discrepancy on the aircraft, which could be anything from a broken seat, chipped paint, torn carpet, or something that's not working. And from that entry or update, there's a potential for up to 5 different screens to come back based on what kind of data is entered. And so this particular service in GT basically shows that from one entry, we have 5 or 6 outcomes potentially that the client, the UI client, is going to receive. And then from there, each one of those screens would have to be returned to resolve or basically complete the mechanics entry. And so I think Justin's going to show you what the front end looks like on top of the GT service that we built for that.
Yes, thank you, Dave. So now that we know the back end and how we got where we are, now it's kind of time to see the fun stuff. So what we want to walk through is I'm going to show you some of the screenshots of what our mechanics actually see. Granted, like we said, they're either seeing this on their desktop or their mobile tablets. So no matter what device they're using, they're now able to see this. So when our mechanics first log in, this is what they're going to see. They're going to see Welcome to SAFE, the system agnostic front end for tech ops. So like I said in the beginning, this is no matter if you're a legacy US Airways mechanic or legacy American mechanic or a new American mechanic, which most of us are transitioning to. So everyone sees the same front end and sees the same data, depending on the aircraft they enter. So what they can do is they can enter a nose number, and then it'll either go to the screen and provide the data, or at the time of the merger, we had some conflicts of the nose number, which a nose number is basically a way we identify the aircraft. So at first, we didn't have many, but maybe 20, 30. Granted, out of 1,000 aircraft, that's not many duplicates. But what we were able to do is we would let that mechanic know which one they want to go to. So it basically letting them know, hey, this is a duplicate nose number. So if I entered aircraft number 200, well, Legacy US Airways and Legacy American have that aircraft, as you can see. What we are able to do, though, is we provide the registration number, which, of course, wouldn't be the same. Luckily, we had no duplicates in our fleets, which a fleet is considered like a Boeing 737 or an Airbus A320. So the different kind of aircrafts we have. And then we also provide them what kind of engine is on there. With those three designations, the mechanic would be able to determine if this was a Legacy US Airways aircraft they were working on or if this was a Legacy American aircraft they'd be working on. And then when they selected, they would move right into this screen. What we did was we tried to provide as much information for our line mechanics as we could without giving them too much. So what we have here is the routing, which is right at the top. And what that does is it allows them to see where that aircraft is going. So what happens is they'll move on from Phoenix to Denver or Denver to Phoenix. So if the mechanic's in Denver right now, they know, hey, this plane is departing and going to Phoenix. It also gives them the time of departures, how much time they have on the ground. Because when the aircraft is on the ground, that's when we do a lot of our maintenance. So they know that they have an hour and a half, hour, 58 minutes to get anything done. That's not enough time to do a large task, but, they could get something done if they needed to. So what we also have on the left-hand side is the attributes about that aircraft. We went out and we talked to a lot of the mechanics to find out what kind of information did they need to support doing their jobs. So they need to know the number of the aircraft, what kind of aircraft it is, what maintenance program it's under, registration, engine type. And then there's also a more button where it expands into a bunch of other information that mechanic needs to see for him to be able to perform his job. Then down below is you have this discrepancy section. A discrepancy is basically an action to be taken for the mechanic. For instance, I know we've all been on the aircraft, and if a seat cushion needs to be replaced, there be a write-up in that discrepancy section telling that mechanic, hey, seat 18F needs a new seat cushion. That would allow the mechanic to go get that seat cushion and replace it, and he could see that happening, and they'd be able to perform that in Denver. So speaking of those actions to be taken, what happens a lot of times is if Denver didn't have that seat cushion, he would wait and postpone it till they could do it. And let's say that plane is going to Phoenix, so they would do it in Phoenix. So what he needs to do, though, is document that. In the eyes of the FAA, we have to document everything we do, as little as a seat cushion to as little as the carpet needs to be replaced on the plane. So all of that has to be documented. So what we are able to do is provide them to do documentation within SAFE. But like I said, there's two different legacy systems, and that documentation goes to each system depending on the aircraft. So what we're able to do in SAFE is provide that buffer for that mechanic to ensure that it goes to the right system. So if the mechanic is on a legacy American aircraft, you'll see that the background is blue on this log page. There's also a paper log page on that aircraft that they have to write it up manually as well. Well, this matches. So that way we ensure that they're on the right aircraft and this is going to the legacy American system. And then what they would be able to do is type up, hey, the seat cushion at 18F needs to be replaced and then they would submit that and they'd save it in the system and it would route it to the legacy American system in this case, since we're on a legacy American aircraft. And then they'd be able to pull it up and see, oh, in Phoenix, I need to get this replaced. So what we're able to do as well is if this was a legacy U.S. Airways aircraft, as you can see, it's the exact same fields, exact same layout. The only difference is the color. And this is a little bit more of a yellow, which matches the paper blog book on the legacy U.S. Airways planes. What this does is it just gives the mechanic kind of a feel that I'm on a legacy American or a legacy U.S. Airways aircraft to make sure that everything is going to the right place. And as we start combining the aircraft into one system, there'll probably be a new color, maybe hot pink or purple, who knows. So what this does is it allows that mechanic, though, to work on either a legacy U.S. Airways aircraft or a legacy American and not have to know that, oh, well, you know what, on this one, I go to this system and do this, or I go to this system and do that. It allows that mechanic to go to one system and to be able to perform their job right there on the spot. So once they write that up, we have to show it to them for the view. So what I've done here is I pulled up one of these views. This is one of our new log pages, and we kind of redid the view a little bit, provided the information they wanted the most at the top, displayed what they needed. So you can see on this discrepancy is closed, so they've already completed it, and they did a daily check. This is one I typed up and did a test on in our test environment just so we can see it. So they performed it at Dallas, and then they did the daily check, and they completed it per their required job cards, which I just made one up there. So by doing this, they can document what they need to do, and then at any time the FAA can review this and see, oh, look, they did perform this function just as they were supposed to. The nice part about this is they can either go back to their desktop and type this up, or they can do this now from their tablet. They can be out on the aircraft sitting there in the seat that they just fixed and type up what they did. That's the nice part about this is we don't have to restrict ourselves with the legacy systems to just being a desktop anymore. With the services we have, we can now make this so our mechanics can do their job wherever they are, which, as I said, is out on a plane, but that plane could be out in Hong Kong or it can be down in Spain. I mean, our planes go all over, so we had to adapt to allow our mechanics to enter information no matter where they are at. So what we did, though, we threw this one in just for fun. We do have a lot of mechanics who love their legacy view. So we do allow them to switch over to the legacy view if that's easier for them. There's still some that love to see the mainframe verbiage all in caps, all spaced out. So we do still have that. We let the mechanics see that, so that way that allows them a little something. All right, the last section I'm going to talk about is our history section. The history section allows our mechanics to search for certain items. Like I said, they're out on the aircraft performing their work, and they say, hey, I got to replace this seat cushion at 18F, but you know what? Has this seat cushion been replaced before? They can go and they can search for that aircraft. Let's say it's aircraft 200, and they'd be able to pull up if that cushion had been replaced before. And what that does is it's the same way that we're entering those discrepancies. It knows by either the aircraft number is legacy American or is it legacy U.S. Airways. The system knows. So if it's aircraft 200, no duplicate, let's say this time, it'll go out to the legacy U.S. Airways system and return that data, or it'll go out to the legacy American system and return that data. The nice part about this is as we're doing our transitions and we're moving into one system down the road over the next few years, this is going to cause less disruption for our mechanics. They've already been trained on the system. This is what they know. So this mechanic doesn't care if the data is coming from a legacy U.S. Airways system or a legacy American system. They really just want their data so they can perform their job and get it done as quickly and timely as possible and safely and compliant. So by doing this, we allow them to not have to worry about the system. We just show them the data. And as we're moving into one system, as we're moving all our data into the legacy U.S. Airways system of Scepter, the mechanic won't need to care. They're still going to get their data back. They've already been trained on the system. So we've already provided that training, and it'll be less hassle for them down the road as we start going into one system. So with that, that's our overview of our application that we developed, and I'm going to turn it back over to Bruce.
Justin and Dave and Barry, this is really a very, very exciting example of what people are doing these days to keep the mainframe current. It's really, from a personal side as a frequent flyer and with American Airlines, I love the example that you gave about talking about the seat cushion. Very, very important part of an airplane to us frequent flyers. And again, I want to thank Barry, Justin, and Dave for making themselves available to share their expertise to give some insights into keeping everybody's mainframes current into the future. As a solution provider, I'm always excited to hear how working together with our clients, we've been able to drive significant innovations and results. We here at GT Software look forward to the opportunity to talk with how we can help you with no matter what your challenge or your strategy is, whether it's mobile, as it was here at American Airlines, or web, or e-commerce, cloud, IoT, cognitive, or whatever the future brings, and how we can help you innovate and develop to future-proof your mainframes. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Janine for any questions that we've received from the audience during the course of this webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thanks, Bruce. And yes, we do have some questions, so I'll get that kicked off. I think this one might be for you, Justin. How long did it take to build your mobile app, and was it quicker than writing code?
So it took us a while, and I'll tell you this, the biggest struggle that we ran into is, and I'm sure a lot of people can attest to this, is we're two different companies coming together. There was a lot of roadblocks, such as getting through each other's firewalls, trying to bridge our data centers, because we were spanning several different data centers with our application. So that was one of our biggest roadblocks that we hit, was not so much the development of it, but just really getting the foundation laid and trying to, we'd spend weeks trying to just access something in a legacy American data center, because we were one of the first applications to really start out the merger. And for us, as far as the code, we looked at this, and Dave can correct me if I'm wrong on this. When we started looking at the services, we would be able to do a web service if we wrote it. I think maybe a basic one would take us about a couple weeks. And Dave, what did we get down to with using GT? I think it was a matter of a day. And Dave can back me up on that. But yeah, we saved a lot of time. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, anywhere from half a day for a simple screen lookup to maybe a day and a half for that real complex one we showed. And yeah. we were estimating 2 weeks to manually code each service.
Yeah, so it saved us a bunch of time by going with GT, and we were in we needed as much time as we could get. Like we said, with the single operating certificate, we had to be complete by the single operating certificate date, and so we had to work a lot of time to get our application done to fit in with that deadline.
Here's another one that's probably for you. Did you have to do anything special to your IMS system for your project?
I'll let Dave take that one.
No, we didn't. We're executing the existing IMS transactions as they existed. Deliberately, because of the limited time we had to deliver this, we worked around making any changes at the back-end system just to get this set and ready to go within 9 months.
Great. One of our initiatives is to move some applications to the cloud. Does IBM have a cloud solution? And this one, Barry, I was fumbling
with the mute. So IBM currently certainly has a number of cloud solutions. So whether it's straight sort of IaaS, so infrastructure as a service offering, we have SoftLayer, one of the leading IaaS providers in the world, all the way up to kind of if you want to look for and take advantage of kind of a Cloud Foundry-based platform as a service offering. We have Bluemix, and then on top of all of this, we have over 100 SaaS properties and SaaS offerings. So yeah, IBM's cloud business is significant and broad, and so definitely requires more of a discussion on what type of application you want to move and what type of environment layer of cloud you'd like to move it to, but we certainly have offerings to meet most needs, so happy to engage. You can reach out to me directly.
Thank you. How can you develop an application without writing code? And Bruce, I'll throw this your way, and you can pass it on to the right person.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Janine. Well, Ivory provides a graphical IDE that generates service instructs for executing the web services. So since all of this is done behind the scenes, the developer isn't really involved at all in that part. So it makes it really nice that we can automatically go out and get the information, the data that's needed, and then the developer can just worry about building the logic through the graphical drag and drop that you saw in one of the examples that Dave showed earlier. Really a nice way to do it, and we would love to have the opportunity to meet with anybody to show them how that is, and the demonstration is really the best way to appreciate the real power of what Ivory can do for you and get some of the results like Justin and Dave mentioned earlier, being able to reduce their development time by, over 50%, and in their case, even up to 80% reduction in development time by using our way of doing the services. Thank you for that question.
Great. Thanks, Bruce. Seeing no more questions, I just want to point out that Bruce is gracious enough here to provide his email address and would welcome any additional questions and make sure that they get to the right person. That's all we have then for today. I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar, and I especially want to thank our panel of distinguished guests. It's Bruce, Barry, Justin, and Dave. Thank you so much. And let you know that later this week, we will be sending out a link to the recording of today's webinar to everyone on the call, as well as to anyone who registered but for whatever reason could not attend today. That concludes our webinar. Have a great day, and thanks again.